So when I was younger, I remember going through this really bad breakup, and I remember crying all the time and feeling unmotivated to do anything and thinking to myself, okay, Faith, like we have to get it together. We have to figure out what do I feel and why do I feel that way. So when I think back, I had to really think about the whole picture. So I was sad because I lost someone, of course. I was with this person for a few years and we broke up, and I just knew that we weren't going to be able to maintain a friendship because it wasn't a possibility. So I knew that I wasn't just losing him as a boyfriend but losing him as a friend too, because over years when you are with someone you usually develop not just a romantic relationship but like a friendship as well, a platonic one. So you have both of those aspects of that relationship that you kind of lose when you lose them, if you lose them. So I was obviously sad because I was losing someone who was really important to my life, who's been in my life for so long. So having that change was difficult for me to adjust to and really accept, to be honest. But then I also think about the situation, and I realized that one thing that really bothered me in that moment was the fact that I thought it was done. Like I thought this was over, that this is someone I was with, and that after this, that's it. Like the game of love is over, that I would never find anyone who's going to love me the way he made me feel loved, and that I would just be by myself the rest of my life. And I feel like that's really unrealistic, to be honest. It sounds pretty crazy considering the fact that there's like billions of people in this world. But when you're in a situation, like you're not thinking straight. You kind of think about like the worst case scenario. You're like, oh my god, this is the last person I'm gonna ever be with. I'm never gonna love again, or I never want to love again, right? Because some people decide that as well after a breakup. They're just really hurt and they're like, I just can't love again. Like I don't want to feel the way I felt in that moment. So when I realized that I felt that way, I'm like, why do I feel this way? Because that makes no sense. There's so many people in this world. If one person could love me, there has to be at least one other person in this entire universe that could love me as well. So I thought about the reason, and when it comes down to it, I realized that it was because I was just always taught as a child that I was a very difficult person to love. So if there was someone who loved me, to cherish them, because that was a very rare case. So when I was with this person and people saw that this person actually did love me and cared about me, they're like, wow, Faith, like, I don't know how that guy could love you because I was always told that I have a really big attitude, that I have a very masculine energy, so that a lot of guys are going to be intimidated by me and not want to be with me because I'm not as feminine as like other women. So I just began to believe it because I was always told that as a child and growing up throughout my life. Like that was just something I was always told, so it was like embedded in my mind. So I began to believe it, but then I realized that it's not true. Like I could find someone else to love me and who would not only love me but appreciate me and support me in the way I needed to be supported, and that I didn't really want a relationship like that last one, because then it will end like the last one, right? We we kind of look back at relationships and we're like, but we're never gonna find anyone like him. But it's like obviously it didn't work out, so why would you want to find someone like that person? Because then it's gonna end with the same results. You're gonna end up not working out because that person obviously, that doesn't mean that you guys will never be compatible, but at that moment in your life and that moment in his life or her life, like you guys are just not seeing eye to eye on certain things or bumping heads with each other. So you had to realize that either you guys need a break and time apart to grow and heal, or find whatever you need to find about yourself, and then come back together, and then fully healed, well, not fully healed but mostly healed, and you dealt with the demons that kind of led to that first breakup. Maybe you guys could try again. But if that's not a possibility, that's fine too. It's okay to break up and lose people in life. That's a part of life. So I feel like when I realized that, that really helped me accept the fact that we broke up, and that just because this one person loved me and people told me that that's probably the only person who will ever love me, I realized that wasn't true. That was just something that they felt, but it wasn't factual. So another thing that really helped me was actually writing out my feelings. And I actually did this through a letter that I wrote to my ex. And I'm going to read it. I know it sounds really cringy, and I know I'm 23 years old. Well, I wasn't 23 at the time. I am now. But this was just like 2-3 years back. So yeah. I know it sounds like cringy, like, oh, I'm writing a letter to your ex, and doesn't mean you have to deliver it, right? Like, you could just write it hypothetically, like, what would I say to him or her? And I wrote this letter, and it actually helped me a lot because it actually allowed me to acknowledge a lot of the things that I refused to acknowledge. Like, I spoke about the good things, the bad things, and then kind of allowed myself to find peace between both of them, and just acceptance on the relationship, and see the relationship in more of an objective perspective rather than kind of allowing all the good times to cloud my feelings and thoughts about the relationship. So I'm going to read it. I actually have my laptop here, so I'm going to read it from my laptop. If my pace is pretty slow, I apologize, but it's a pretty lengthy letter, so be patient with me. So I'll start. So the letter starts with, Dear X, I don't know how I want to start this letter or why I'm even writing it, but here it goes. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I remember when we were in the van coming back from a wrestling match and how you laid your hand on mine, and I initially thought that it was by mistake, but once you didn't move it after a while, I knew it wasn't. I remember going home that night, and that was literally all I could think about. I remember when everyone told me that they thought you had a crush on me, but I refused to believe it. I remember the first time we planned to hang out together. I remember walking to the park with you, and I could tell that you were nervous, but I wasn't sure why. I remember when we sat on a hill, and we held hands, and I laid my head on your shoulder. I remember how comfortable and safe I felt with you at that moment. I remember when you asked me to be your girlfriend, and without hesitation, I said yes. I remember thinking about how amazing of a person I thought you were, and how I couldn't believe that such an amazing person like yourself would even want to date me. I remember how we would talk about our future and envision what it would be like to grow with each other and experience life together. I remember our first kiss in the movie theater and how I felt butterflies in my stomach when I felt your lips on mine. I remember the joy that I felt whenever you were around me. I remember how just by hearing your voice, it would instantly make my entire day so much better. I remember how excited I would get whenever you would text me and how I would rush to my phone to respond to your messages. I remember being on the phone with you late at night and never letting you sleep because all I wanted to do was talk to you. I remember wanting to spend every single second, every single day with you. I remember how happy you made me feel. I remember the challenges we faced together. I remember every time I would see you upset and crying that it would break my heart. I remember getting frustrated whenever I would hear people talk about you behind your back and say mean things about you. I remember always wanting to protect you. I remember hurting you. I remember regretting every time I made you cry. I remember you hurting me and me forgiving you. I remember feeling uncertain about our relationship. I remember how you would always reassure me that everything would be okay and would work out in the end. I remember giving so much of me to you because I knew that you wouldn't take it for granted and I trusted you. I remember trying to create solutions to our problems, but they would never be solved. I remember when you told me to never give up on you and to always stay by your side no matter how difficult things get. I remember you telling me to always love you more than you loved me, and I did. I remember when you loved me and I loved you. I remember when I was about to graduate high school, everyone would tell you that I would get tired of you and I'll get tired of you once I went to college. But the funny thing is that it didn't happen that way. As a matter of fact, it was the complete opposite. I never imagined losing you, and I never gave up on you. Despite what I may have said before, deep in my heart, I always had faith in our relationship that things will work out eventually. I understand that eventually may have been too long for you, and for that, I can't be upset when you finally decided to end things. I know it took a lot for you to end the relationship, and I'm truly happy that you did what you felt was right, despite how it would make other people feel. I want to apologize for every time I hurt you and caused you pain. I want to say that I'm sorry for never fully enjoying the happy moments in our relationship because I was always afraid to let my guard down. I also want to say sorry for not knowing how to be a girlfriend to you. 4.5 years with you has been a roller coaster filled with laughter, happiness, tears, and pain. And although our relationship was never perfect, I could never say that I regret it. You were my rock and a very important part of my life that I needed to be able to get through many of the hardships that I have had to face. Your love for me was honestly so beautiful and made me love myself so much more. I would love the things that you would love the things that I would hate about myself, and I just want to say thank you for loving me despite my imperfections and flaws. I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to be a part of your life. I love being able to support you through the difficult times, cheering you on during times of success, and loving you through it all. I want to say thank you for always making me feel loved and never making me doubt for 1 second that you truly love me. You always accepted me for who I was, and I never had to pretend that I was someone I'm not because I knew you loved me for me. Thank you for teaching me how to love someone and what it felt like to be loved by someone. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to learn from my mistakes and helping me correct them along the way. I also want to say thank you for being my first everything. My first kiss, boyfriend, lover, and now my first heartbreak. Looking back at our relationship, it feels bittersweet. I want to cry because things didn't play out the way we expected it to, but at the same time I want to smile because it was such a beautiful and genuine love that we shared. It's unbelievable to think that we were strangers at one point and developed such a deep love for one another in such a short amount of time. I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and I know that God brought you into my life when He did because He knew that that's when I needed you the most. I thank God that He blessed me with you, and I thank you for being an amazing boyfriend and friend to me. You are truly an incredible, intelligent, talented, kind, loving, forgiving, and strong human being. I have always admired you for who you are and loved you because you were you. I wish you luck on your future endeavors, and I know that you are capable of being successful in anything you set your mind to. Just remember that I'm always here for you. Even if we ever stop talking, I'll always be there for you when you need me. So don't ever feel like you can't call or text me. I don't know where I wrote this, but this is what I wrote. You're literally the only person who I love talking to and still love talking to. I love you with all my heart, forever and always, Faith. So that's it. That's my letter. It's very lengthy, but I really love it because it allowed me to discuss what, like, it allowed me to put my feelings into words and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And kind of like really see the relationship in a way that was hard for me to accept, but that other people would see because they knew things, but that they wouldn't want to tell me because they felt like it was just gonna hurt me more. But I needed to say it for myself. I needed to do this letter so that I can say it. Because if I heard someone else say, like, oh, well, that guy didn't treat you good anyways, then I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna get defensive, right? And I'm gonna be like, but he was so good. What are you talking about? He did this, he did that, da, da, da. You don't know what you're talking about. But if I said it myself, I can't deny my own words, right? So I needed to say it for myself and put it in writing, at least for me, because then I could look back at it whenever I had those moments that I'm like, oh, like I regret it. I regret like bringing up the conversation, and then that led to the breakup conversation, right? Like I regret that stuff because now we're broken up. But then I think to myself, like, no, like, read your letter again, Faith. Like, you talked about the things that went wrong. You talked about how we tried. So don't say you didn't try, because you literally said in this letter you tried your best. You both tried your best. And that just wasn't enough, right? That wasn't enough to keep the relationship going. And that's okay. Every relationship doesn't have to be 20 years, right? Or a lifetime. Like, you're gonna lose people in life, whether that's in a romantic relationship or a platonic one. You're gonna lose people, and that's natural, and that's okay. And allowing people to grow is so important, because keeping them in the same state and expecting them to either stay the same like you are or grow at the pace that you're growing, whether they're growing faster or you're growing faster and they just can't keep up or you can't keep up, that's gonna hurt both of you guys in the end of the day. So it's so important to just let people go. If it's time, it's time, and just find peace within that. And I feel like this letter allowed me to kind of connect the good and the bad and just create this peace of mind through that. So I really hope that if you are going through a breakup, that you're able to heal in a healthy manner. I know a lot of the things that I did. I called one of my friends the day I found out. Well, not the day I found out. Acting like the day I found out, like, he cheated on me. No, it wasn't like that. We had a discussion. We talked about it, and then he's like, you know what, Faith, we should just break up. And I'm like, what? No. I'm like, actually, yeah, you decide. I gave him the power, and then so that I wouldn't, because I couldn't pull the trigger. So I was like, please do it for us, because we obviously are not in a good state. But I can't pull the trigger, so I need you to do it. And I remember watching this video, one of Jay Shetty's podcasts about heartbreak, and he had Matthew Hesse on it, and both of them are amazing, first of all, but he had him on it, and he was saying how, like, if you are the one to initiate the conversation that leads to the breakup, even though that other person broke up with you, you technically were the one who initiated the breakup. Like, they broke up with you, but you started the conversation, so technically you had a role in that breakup. So you can't say, like, he broke up with me, because you started the conversation. So, and that, for me at least, in that way, like, that way of thinking about it allowed me to kind of gain my power back. I'm like, okay, like, it wasn't just his decision, it was both our decisions. Like, he's the one who pulled the trigger, but I'm the one who kind of said, like, let's sit down and talk, because we gotta figure this out. Things aren't working the way we wanted to do. Neither of us are happy in this relationship, so we gotta figure things out. Like, there's no point in holding on to something that you feel like you're just pulling, and you're gonna end up ripping it eventually. It's kind of like that tug of war, right? Like, you keep pulling opposite sides, pulling. Eventually, the rope is gonna snap and break. Someone's gonna get hurt. Someone's gonna fall, or both are gonna fall on the sides, because all that pressure, you guys are both gonna plop to the ground and fall and hurt. So might as well just cut it to keep that tension, to stop that tension from continuing. So yeah, I hope, if you are going through a breakup, I know it's really rough, it's so hard. That was actually my first breakup that I went through, that I wrote this letter for. And just know that, like, there is light at the end of the tunnel, that allow yourself time to heal. Like, even though people are like, you gotta get over it, like, oh my god, like, that happened last week, like, it's time to, move on. I think it is important for you to give yourself the time that you need. it took me a while, honestly, to get rid of a lot of the emotions that I felt. Well, kind of not get rid of it, but cope with it and just accept what happens and kind of just move on, you know? So, and I feel like at the end of the day, like, you could always have love for that person, but you don't necessarily have to be with that person to love them. So I remember, like, me and my friend were talking the other day, and she was saying how when she broke up with someone, that she told the person, like, I will always love you. Like, 17-year-old version of me will always love you. It's just that the current me does not love you. But just know that that love is always yours. You can have that. So I feel like that also helped me really think about it. And I love how she put that. And I think that would be really helpful for people who are going through a breakup to realize that you're not taking away your love from that person. If that's something that's really bothering you, like, oh, I'm going to hurt them, whatever the case is, like, you're giving them that love that you had for them during that time. You don't take that away from them. All those memories, they still stay. Like, that doesn't just disappear. You could still appreciate a love in a relationship that you had for someone, but it doesn't mean that you have to still be with them or still communicate with them. So I think that also is like something that I feel like I really wish I heard earlier, when I was going through the breakup. But now that I feel like I'm mostly healed, I just think that that was something nice to share. So I just know that version of myself does still love him, but the version of myself now, like, I care about him and I do wish him the best, genuinely. But I knew that we kind of had to separate because of the fact that we were just hurting each other. Like, the relationship would just end up falling apart, and we were just gonna do more damage to each other if we had stayed with one another rather than just breaking up. So I'm really grateful that, you know, someone pulled the band-aid in that situation, and we ended up, you know, now we're doing our own thing. And I wish him all the best, and I hope that you guys would find peace within yourself. And whether you broke up with a person or they broke up with you, I think just acknowledging the power you had in that relationship and that ending of the relationship, and realizing that, I think it's also important not to victimize yourself, to realize the things you did wrong. If you listen to my letter, I acknowledge the things I did wrong as well as the things that he did wrong. So realizing that there's this tug and pull again situation where I do something wrong, you're falling, about to fall, but then you do something wrong and I'm about to fall, and it keeps going. At one point we keep going different directions, it's gonna pop, snap. So yeah, I think it's also important to say, you know, I did this wrong. They had all the reason to break up with me if you were the one broken up, or vice versa, if you were the one who broke up with the person, realizing, okay, they did all these things, what made me feel the way I felt at that moment to break up with them, that's valid, you know. So I think kind of like staying with your decision is so important. I feel that a lot of the time, like, you might make a decision, oh, I'm gonna break up, and the next day you text them, oh, I'm so sorry, like, I miss you, baby, da da da. But it's important to stay with your decision. Like, you don't just say that out loud for no reason. Like, you were validating your decision, and I think is worth your time to explore that reason why you did that, rather than just taking it back right away. So that's it. That's all I have for this video. Thank you so much. If you had a breakup and you want to add, or you felt like anything in this video helped you heal, if you're going through a breakup right now, again, I do empathize. I know how it feels. There is light at the end of the tunnel. I promise you will get through it. And if you want to see more videos, or this video provided you with value, please like it and subscribe if you want to see more of my content. I'll be talking about wellness, relationships, health, nutrition, all that good stuff. And relationships are a part of that health and wellness factor. So there might be more content on relationships. Actually, there definitely will be more content on this relationships. But yes, thank you for watching, and hope to see you in my next video. Bye.